The roots of it you can find more than 20 years ago when the European leaders signed the Maastricht Treaty, which is the agreement between the members of the European Union, which led to the creation of the euro and the creation of monetary union within Europe. European integration had started much earlier. It has a long pedigree going back to the 1950s, and it evolved through time with the creation of the European Economic Community, the European Community, and then the single market in the 1980s. And the culmination of that process was the idea that to have a well-functioning single market for goods and services within Europe, you needed to have a single currency such that Europe genuinely was a single economic entity in the manner of the United States or other continent-wide economic areas. And so at Maastricht, the European leaders set out a very clear plan, culminating in 1999 in the introduction of a single currency, a single monetary policy, and the creation of the euro. What's interesting, viewing that process from today's perspective, is that both the Eurosceptics, that group that didn't really believe that we should progress with monetary union, but also the Europhiles, those who are advocates of the euro and introducing the euro as a currency, they actually shared a very similar diagnosis and a very similar assessment of what the Maastricht Treaty framework was. They both shared the assessment that it was incomplete in some important respects, and in particular that it lacked the depth of fiscal and political integration that was really required to make the monetary union workable and efficient and effective on lots of dimensions. The Eurosceptics' argument at that point was precisely because you were lacking things like deeper political integration, deeper fiscal integration, and so forth. And indeed, these were things that you didn't want. You thought they were undesirable, and also not only undesirable, but also unattainable. Therefore, it would be inevitable that in the end, these design flaws would lead to a crisis of the euro. And of course, that pool of thinking feels vindicated with the way things have turned out now. But the irony is that the Europhiles would have agreed with that assessment, but they thought deeper fiscal integration, deeper political integration were both desirable and were attainable, but would only be attained once there was the pressure of having monetary union there to act as a forcing mechanism to make these things happen. And those people think, admittedly at quite significant cost in terms of the current crisis, but the current crisis is the forcing mechanism that will push through this desirable greater fiscal integration, greater economic integration, greater political integration within Europe. So there's a real sense in which, Europe hasn't really learned anything over the last 20 years. It's really exactly the same arguments, but they've just become more pressing arguments today. And the crucial question facing Europe is, does it take this step forward, using the current crisis as an opportunity to push through deeper integration and achieve a more unified Europe? Or does it say, well, the skeptics were right, we've embarked down this path, and what we really need to do is take a step backwards? And it's that issue